So anyway, today we'll start new module, plastic analysis. So the remaining parts we can complete the next week, module 3. Okay. Okay, let us start. Okay. So in this module we have to see plastic analysis of beams and frame. Actually, this plastic analysis, I think you are all familiar with the elastic analysis. The elastic analysis means so your structural member, everything will be in the linear elastic range. That means your loading may not exceed the yield point. Okay, so that is what we will be calling elastic analysis. Actually, that is we are doing in all our structural analysis. So what we are doing in the classroom, that is only elastic analysis. Okay, so till now. So this concept is mostly related to steel structures. Okay, it is applicable for concrete structure also. We can do the plastic analysis, but it is mostly very. It has a lot of application to the steel structures. So we will see that why it is. Okay. So this topic also very important from gate point of view also. Most of the time, so you will be getting one question for 2 mark. Sometimes you will get one question for 1 mark and one question for 2 marks. So you may get maximum 3 marks. Okay, this is actually this topic. Okay, plastic analysis. This is the topic. You will be. It is included in your design of steel structures. Okay, when you are if you check the gate syllabus, the plastic analysis one chapter. This topic is included in the design of steel structures. So steel structures, it is a very vast subject, something like your design of concrete structure. But the weightage is very less. For the gate exam point of view, the weightage for design of steel structure is very less. So entire steel structure you may get maximum 4 mark. I will say 2 to 4 mark only it will come total from steel structures. So out of that 2 to 4 mark, you will get at least 2 mark or 3 mark from plastic analysis. So that is why this is an important topic. Sometimes we can skip the steel structures very completely because the weightage is very less, but you have to study only this chapter. Definitely will get one question. Okay. And also this topic is I will say it is you can say the transition from your structural analysis to the design of steel structures. Okay, because this is having a lot of application to the design of steel structures. So that is why I will say now we are in analysis, structural analysis 2 we are doing. So this is the topic, it will take you to the design of steel structures, kind of I will say transition. Okay, so I gave you a brief idea about the topic. So now we'll start. Okay, plastic analysis. First we have to see what is plastic. So first I think we should start from elastic. So what do you mean by elastic? So elastic means you know already we have discussed several times. So when you apply some load to the material and suppose if you remove the load, when you remove the load, material will regain its initial condition. There will not be any permanent deformation. That is what we'll be calling elastic. So that type of material will be calling elastic material. So when you come to the plastic, okay, so every material is possess some elasticity. So if you take a some brittle material like concrete or I would say plain concrete or brick, whatever is the material or timber. If you take any material, it will possess some elasticity. That means the range of elasticity will vary. Suppose if we have a steel, it is having high elasticity. You can go for some large load, and even if you remove the load, it will come back to the initial position. There will not be any permanent deformation in the structure. But if you take a brittle material, you can apply very less amount of load. After that, it will go to it will have breaking, or it will just cross the elastic range. Okay, that is why I will say every material will possess some elasticity, but it will vary. Okay, from material to material. So okay. So what do you mean by plastic then? It is just opposite actually. I will say it is just opposite. So what do you mean by elastic? We have seen if you apply some load to the material, and when you remove the load, material will regain its initial condition. Okay, that is the meaning of elastic. The plastic mean it is just opposite. That means so when you remove the load, the material does not come back to its original size and shape. That means there it has undergo some permanent changes. Okay, that is what you must have done. The you have discussed already the stress strain diagram for the steel or tension test for the steel. you can see that initially it will be elastic, after that it will go to the plastic. So if you are removing the load after crossing the elastic range, suppose you apply the loading and you have reached the plastic range, then you are removing the load, what will happen? Definitely it will come back, but there will be some permanent changes. Okay, so that is the difference between elastic and plastic. So then we'll discuss what is plasticity. Okay, these are all you are knowing. But I want to start from the basics of elasticity. Then we'll go to the plastic, so that it will be very easy for you. Okay, the plasticity. So what do you mean by plasticity? It is the property of material. You can say it is a property of material by virtue of which on loading material undergoes permanent deformation without breaking. Okay, that is the meaning of plasticity. Okay, you can say the good example is for the plasticity or plastic material is mild steel is a good example. Okay, that means if you take a mild steel bar, so I'm applying some tensile force, something like this. So what will happen? Uh, it is not going to break. It will undergo, if you apply tensile force, it will just elongate. It can have large deformation before breaking. Okay, it will go something like this. So material undergoes permanent deformation, but there is no breaking. Okay, that is what we'll be calling plasticity. Okay, so a very good example is mild steel. Uh, but what about rubber? Rubber is plastic or elastic? So rubber is a perfectly, you can say, a perfect example for elastic material. Okay, so because that cannot resist the load, it will just deform. When you apply the load, it will just deform. Okay, that is not, you should not confuse. That is a plastic material. Okay, the plasticity does not mean that it is just deforming. It is not like that. The material should be able to undergo the permanent deformation without any breaking. So then only we can use it for the structural application. And that is why sometimes the question will come, simple objective question will come, which is a perfectly elastic material, something plastic material, something like that. So option may be rubber, steel, glass, something like that. Okay, the mild steel, you can say, it is a good example for plastic material. So rubber is perfectly elastic. Okay, rubber is perfectly elastic. So it will just deform when you apply the load. It will just deform. It cannot resist the load. Okay, that is why we cannot say that rubber is a plastic material. Okay, so I think it is clear. So now we'll see discuss the basics of stress strain diagram for the mild steel. So this is the basics of your elastic as well as plastic analysis. Okay, because if you do a tension test on mild steel, so how we are going to do the tension test? So you will have a steel bar. Okay, you will have steel bar. So we will keep the steel bar in our UTM. So we'll keep this one in UTM. Okay, so then this upper plate and lower plate it can move, or we will pull the steel bar. Okay, so if you take any cross section, what you will get stress that is equal to the load applied by area of cross section, initial area. And you can also measure what is the change in length, what is the change in length in the specimen. Okay, and if you know the change in length, you can find out strain is equal to change in length by original length. So you can get stress and strain, and once you have the stress and strain, you will be able to draw the stress strain curve for the mild steel. So this is the result of the tension test. The result of your tension test is you will be getting the stress strain curve. So from this stress strain curve, you can get all the mechanical properties of your uh, the specimen, your steel. So that can be used for your the structural design application. Okay, so let us discuss this one. That's all the points from your uh, stress strain diagram. So that is very essential. You should have a clear understanding of the stress strain diagram. So that is why we will discuss it uh, carefully again. So this point, so let me take some name so that it will be easy for further discussion. This point is A. It is a proportionality limit. Okay, this point is, so let me call it as B, that is elastic limit, and this is upper yield point C and This is the lower yield point. Lower yield point is this one. Okay, so this is the D, and this point, let me call it as E, and this is the ultimate tensile stress F, and it is the breaking point. Breaking point, that is G. Okay. Okay, so we'll discuss certain points in stress strain curve. So the point A is known as the proportionality limit. Okay, the point A is called proportionality limit. So what do you mean by proportionality limit? That means up to that point your stress will be proportional to strain. That is what we'll be calling the proportionality limit. So point B, that is called the elastic limit. So this is called elastic limit. So that means up to that point it will be, the deformation will be elastic. That means if you take this segment A to B, and if you draw in a larger scale, that will not be a straight line, that will be something like a curve, we can say. This is point B and this point A. But from if you take this point, this origin, from O to A, you will have a straight line because the stress is proportional to strain. So elastic limit means if you remove the load before this point B, material will come back to original position. There will not be any permanent deformation. Okay, that is why that is the meaning of elastic limit. Okay, and point C is called upper yield point. So this is already we have discussed in strength of material. So we will not discuss everything in detail, but I will, whatever is required I will discuss. The C is known as upper yield point, and D is called lower yield point. So lower yield point. So which is the true yield strength of the material? That is the lower yield point. Okay, that is the you can say that is a true yield strength of the material. So maybe that is why the corresponding to this, we can say that is a yield stress. Okay, maybe we can take that point, that is a yield stress. So should I will take this. So this point D, and corresponding stress, maybe you can take it as the yield strength. Okay, so this is the D is the lower yield point, that is a true yield point. Okay, and yeah, so sigma y is nothing but your yield strength. Yield strength. So what do you mean by yield strength? I think our discussion should start from the yield strength. So this is called ultimate point, ultimate tensile strength. F is ultimate tensile strength, and G is the breaking point. Okay, so that I did not write. F is the ultimate load point, and G is the breaking point. Okay, so what do you mean by yield strength? What do you mean by yield strength? So what you mean by yield strength?
So it is the ratio of ultimate strength by factor of safety.
Okay, that is not the definition of yield strength. Yield strength means you can see the stress strain diagram. That is the factor of safety maybe you are considering while they're designing. Okay, so the yield strength means you can see the stress strain diagram, and if you apply, you can see like suppose if you take a mild steel, so if you apply this much level of if you apply this much of stress with the material, then material will have, you can say there is not much change of stress, there will be a lot of strain. You can see the sudden increase in the strain. So if you see the stress strain diagram, you can see a lot of this up to this point, maybe elastic point, you can see that that is elastic range. This is the elastic range, and after that material will just enter into the plastic range. This is completely the plastic zone. Okay, I can just divide the stress strain diagram into two parts, up to the elastic point, or maybe you can also say that yield point. So that is a elastic range, and after that completely the material will be in the plastic range. That means it is going to have permanent deformation in this zone. Okay, so again we have classified the plastic entire plastic zone is this much. Okay, so this is our plastic zone. Okay, this is the plastic zone, complete plastic zone. Okay, so this is the elastic zone. So after in the stress strain diagram you will find like proportional limit is a point and elastic limit is a different point and yield strength is a different point. In the stress strain diagram we can distinguish all those points, right? But in the real case you will find that there won't be much difference between a proportional limit or elastic limit or a yield point. All these points will be the stress values will be very closer. Okay, that is it. Practically you can say everything is you can take elastic limit, yield strength, you can take everything is same. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is the yield strength means from this stress strain diagram you can see that at that stress level the material is going to enter into the plastic zone. Okay, so if you apply this much amount of stress to the material, then the material will enter into the plastic zone. Then the behavior of your material will be material undergoes its behavior will be different. Okay, that is why that is a crucial point. I would say that is a crucial point as far as your design is concerned. So up to a point, we can say the material is behavior is a linear behavior. There won't be any permanent deformation if you remove the load. But once it crosses the yield point, the behavior is going to differ. It is going to have permanent deformation. Okay, that is why that point is a crucial point. Uh, okay, that point is a crucial point. What is the stress? Or also you can say that if I ask, what is the stress induced? What is the stress required to change from elastic to plastic? So that is the yield strength. Okay, so I repeat. So what is the stress required to change from elastic to plastic? That is called yield strength. So, I said already the yield strength is a crucial point as far as the material property is concerned. That is why how will you designate your steel? You are using the reinforcement in your RCC members. How will you designate the steel, different grade of steel? How will you designate the yield mild steel and your HYST steel? How will you designate in the IS code? What is the nomenclature you are using?
AP250, AP415.
Yeah, exactly. So, because this yield strength is a crucial parameter or crucial point, I would say, that is why we will use that. We will designate Fe250, Fe415 like that, different grade of steel. Fe250 mean that is a mild steel. Fe415 mean that is a high yield strength D for HYSD bar. So this 250 indicate the yield strength of that grade of steel. If we have a HYST rebar, the yield strength will be higher, 415 Newton per megapascal. So this number indicate the yield strength, and this indicate the yield strength. And what about this Fe? So that Fe is a you can say that Fe is a major ingredient of your the steel. Okay, that is your iron. Okay, so usually you can the steel is nothing but is an alloy of maybe iron and carbon. Okay, so that is why Fe250, Fe415 we are indicating the grade of steel with yield strength value 250 415, because that is a crucial point we have to use in the using that only we are classifying the reinforced these steel bars. Okay, so I think you got the yield strength. That is a crucial point. The behavior of the material is changing from elastic to plastic. That is the reason why all the steels are designated by its yield strength. Okay, now if you take mild steel, the mild steel means Fe250. Okay, if you take the mild steel, that is Fe250. So it yield strength is 250 megapascal. Okay, let us say if you take the mild steel bar, okay, and apply a stress of 250 megapascal to the mild steel bar. So what will happen? So will it break? No, it is not going to break, but it will just enter into the plastic state from the elastic state. So that is the meaning. It is not going to break after 250 megapascal because it can take much more load after yield strength is somewhere here only. It will not break. Breaking point is here. It can go up to the ultimate stress. Okay, so if you take a mild steel bar and if you apply stress of 250 megapascal, what will happen? It is not going to break, but it will just, you can say, it will just enter from the elastic state to the plastic state. So let us say if you take the same mild steel bar and apply a stress of 150 megapascal. So then what will be its state? It will be in the elastic state. It will be in the linear elastic zone because 250 megapascal is the minimum stress you have to apply so that your material will enter into the plastic zone. So if you apply 150 megapascal, it will be in the elastic zone. Okay, and if you apply, let us say, 300 megapascal to the your mild steel, then what will happen? Then also it may not break. It will just enter into the plastic state. And if you remove this stress, and if you suppose if you apply 300 megapascal, and what will happen? The your material will enter into the plastic zone. And once you remove the stress, once you remove the load, or once you remove the stress, then it will come back. But it will not reach the original position. There will be some permanent deformation. Suppose for example, that is also we have discussed already in your maybe structural material. Suppose if we are somewhere here, and if you remove the load, it will not come back to the original position, but it will come back. It will come back, of course. It will come back. It may come back to somewhere here. So that means there will be some permanent deformation, because still it is having some elasticity. Because of that elasticity, it will try to come back, but there will be some permanent deformation because we have already entered into the plastic zone. Okay. Yeah, that is a point I want to say. And the next you can see that from this Preston diagram, this zone DE. So maybe I will write here the point, this part DE, that is known as yield zone. Okay, that is known as yield zone. That is known as yield zone. And after that, what is happening? Yield zone means this is a yielding. You can see that there is no change in stress, only the strain is just increasing. That is why I am calling it is DE is known as yield zone. And the next part is, you can see the EF. So maybe I will write here. Okay, so the EF, what is happening? So let us say you are doing the tension test. So after this the yielding is happening. Then after reaching this point E to F, you can see that there is an, so up to this point the stress and strain is going proportional. And this region, there is not much, you can say, change in the stress, but strain is increasing. Okay, so after this part, you can see that again there is an increase. So that means the graph is going up. EF, the graph is going up. So this is called strain hardening. Okay, that is called the strain hardening range. So what that means? So in the EF range, you can see that the graph is going up. That is known as strain hardening. Means the material again start resisting the load. It is actually because of, you can say, because of the change in crystalline structure of your steel. Okay, so again I just repeat, this part there is not much change in the stress. It is just deforming. So I don't want to apply. Once you if you just reach the level of yield strength, then you don't need to increase the load. You just maintain that load. It will just deform. There is not much resistance, I would say. Okay, but after this point, this EF region, the graph is going up. Okay, that means the materials again start resisting the load. It is because of the crystalline structure of the steel. We can just read from the Google. You can get a good understanding of the body strain handling. Okay, that is a property of a mild steel. Again, I would say, so this part is strain hardening. That means the body strain hardening is material start resisting the load again. Okay, so it is because of it crystalline structure is going to change in that region. Okay, that is why. And that is your the strain hardening region. Okay, the strain hardening. And then I have FG. Okay, once you reach this point is called ultimate stress, ultimate load. You can say ultimate point. I will. The F is called the ultimate point. Okay, and and FG. After this point, what will happen? Uh, you can say this region FG in the stress strain diagram, that is the necking. That is known as the necking. And finally, at G, you will have fracture. It is called fracture point or breaking point. Okay, so after this point, your material will have localized deformation. So up to this point, maybe you can say it will deform something like this. And there, the deformation is not localized. Like this increasing, and everywhere cross-section area is decreasing. But after this point, in this region, so you will find that your material may become something like that. So this will have some kind of, it will be something like that. So we can see this is known as the localized deformation. Okay, this is the localized deformation. So that means once you cross the ultimate point, what will happen is the areas keep on reducing, but that reduction in the area, everything will be localized to a particular point. Okay, finally it is going to break along this point. Okay, so, and this region is known as the necking. Okay, so finally this is your entire stress strain diagram. So we have a elastic range and we have a plastic zone, and the plastic zone also I can classify. This is the part plastic ray, this is known as the yield zone, and this is the strain hardening range, and it is a necking. All are together, we can say that that is the plastic zone, and this is the elastic zone, and the remaining part is elastic zone. So the crucial point is the yield strength, I can say. The crucial point is the yield strength. Okay, and finally it is going to break. The what type of the failure you can see in your mild steel. If you have a mild steel, you will have the breaking will be, the failure will be a cup cone failure, right? The cup cone failure, that is an indication of, can say that this is an, if you perform a tension test on any material, and if you find this type of failure, it is an indication of ductility. Okay, and if your material is very ductile, then you will find this type of failure. So maybe you can the cup cone failure mean it may look something like this. So this may go like this. Okay, so maybe I can also draw something like this. So maybe this is, so this is, because this type of failure is known as cup cone failure. So this is an indication of your ductility of your material, and if you do the test on maybe mild steel and aluminum, so all those material you will find this type of failure in the tension test. Okay, so now this is my stress strain diagram. This is stress and it is strain. So this is my stress strain diagram. So let us take the point. This is point A, this is point B, this is point C, point D, point E, F, and G. So all those points we have discussed, and you can say that C, D, E, F, G. So this is called plastic zone from yield point. Okay, and before that you can say that is the elastic zone. And so all the analysis which we are doing in your structural analysis, we are finding what is the deflection. We are using different methods to find deflection, moment area method or double integration method. So we are analyzing so many structures, beams and frame, etc. So all the analysis we are doing, structural analysis till now, it is a linear elastic analysis. Okay, which means load never exceeds the yield point. Okay, but in plastic analysis, what we are going to do in this particular topic, we are going to cross the yield point, and then what is happening in the material, how the structures are going to fail, what is our collapse load, all those things we are going to find out in this. Okay, So let me write that point once for so all the analysis so in structural analysis is the linear elastic. Okay, that is the one of the assumption we used to have all those methods. Okay, linear elastic analysis. So we have studied several methods to find deflection everything. So all those methods are applicable only for linear elastic analysis. Once the material crosses the yield point, so none of those methods are applicable. You cannot use any of those methods to find out a deflection or ultimate load, whatever it is. Okay, linear elastic analysis, which means which means the load never exceed yield point. Okay, also you can write yield point or elastic limit. Okay, but in the plastic analysis we are going to cross, but in plastic analysis we are going to cross the yield point. Okay, yeah, so now we have seen what is the from the stress strain diagram point of view we have seen like when it will be elastic, when it will be plastic, and okay, that part. So now we'll slowly enter into the plastic analysis. First, as usual, we have to see the what are the assumptions which we are using in this analysis. And first and most important assumption we have in plastic analysis, that is the, so we are using idealized stress strain curve for steel. Okay, so that means this is my stress strain diagram or stress strain curve, I would say, for the pilot steel. There it is a complete stress strain curve. But in the plastic analysis, we are going to use idealized stress strain curve. That means this is you can say this is idealized stress strain curve, or more precisely you can say this is the idealized stress strain curve. So we'll discuss what is mean by idealized stress strain curve and what is its effect, how it is going to affect your design. Okay, that is what we'll discuss. This is the complete stress strain curve, and but we will not take this stress strain curve in the plastic analysis. Instead of that, we will follow the idealized stress strain curve. Okay, that means you can say, okay, let us, this is the idealized stress strain curve. Okay, so in the idealized stress strain curve we will neglect, we are actually just ignore the EF. Okay, actually in the maybe this, okay, yeah, you can take this. So in the idealized stress strain curve we are taking only up to this point E, we are just ignoring this part. Okay, so we are ignoring this part EF, we are just the considering the strength of the material up to the point E. The EF is known as the plastic zone, sorry, DE is known as the yield zone. So we are considering the strength of the material up to this point only for the plastic analysis, we are just neglecting this part. Okay, that is the idealized stress strain curve. We can see this one, maybe it is the most correct one. Okay, so complete stress strain diagram is this one. We have ultimate stress, we have the breaking point. It can resist, it can take the load up to the ultimate stress, it can take the load up to this point. Actually after that only the breaking will happen, but in the plastic analysis we will consider the strength of the material only up to point E up to this point. Okay, so we are just neglecting this part. If we are neglecting, that means what is what is the meaning of that? That means we never reach we never reach the ultimate stress. Okay, so actually the if you take the material, it will break only after having the ultimate tensile strength, because it is a maximum stress it can resist. Okay, but in the plastic analysis we are taking only this much, we are neglecting this part. So this is my limiting condition, I would say. Like in your elastic analysis, what is your assumptions? At any case, your material, there should if you have a structural system or the structural member, at any point there should not have a stress more than yield point. Okay, so that is what, or sometimes we'll keep some factor of safety. Suppose if you have a mild steel, the yield strength will be 250 megapascal. Let us say I'm using a factor of safety of 2. So what is the meaning of that? So I am not allowing my member to cross the stress of 250 by 2 125 megapascal. That is my limiting condition. Okay, because if my material crosses that more than yield strength, then I will say that is a failure condition. But that doesn't mean that material is going to fail in the reality. That is a decision of the designer. Okay, I am keeping the limiting point. After that point, I will say that is a failure condition. Okay, so something like that. So in the plastic analysis, we are considering only the idealized stress strain curve, and we are neglecting the part EF. So that means we never reach the ultimate this point in the structural member. So finally, you have the limiting point will be the yield strength only. Up to this point, the material can go. Okay, after that we will not allow. Accordingly, I will keep factor of safety, and accordingly I will design it. Okay, that means what will be the maximum stress induced in the plastic analysis? That is yield strength only. Okay, because I am considering the my stress strain I am considering my stress strain diagram only up to this point. Okay, that means my maximum stress induced in the plastic analysis will be yield strength only. Okay, so we'll discuss this assumption again in more detail. So let us so what is the advantage of having this idealized stress strain curve? What is the advantage? What is the advantage we are getting? What is the advantage of idealized stress strain curve? So we are using the idealized stress strain curve for the plastic analysis and design. So we are not taking the after E. So we are taking only A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so F. So this is I am taking only up to this point. So that means I am following this stress strain diagram for my the design or analysis, plastic analysis and design. I am following only this stress strain diagram. So what is advantage? What is advantage if you are using this stress strain diagram? Can anybody tell me? Whether we will be in more safer side or we will be in less safer side. So in actual strength may be something like this. Actual the stress strain diagram for the material is like this, but I am taking this one for my analysis and design. So is there an advantage of following this one?
Sir, I think we'll be in less and safer side.
How we will be less safer side? So
Sir,
but
because here we are not considering the ultimate strength. And the ultimate aim of our is to design a steel structure. So if we will not consider the ultimate strength and will design the structure, then it won't be the worst condition to design the structure.
okay, so actually we are looking at the strength of the material. Okay, let me clarify. We are looking at the strength of the material. So material can take the load up to ultimate this point. Okay, material can go take up to ultimate in the reality. After that only breaking will happen. So after, even though it crosses this point, nothing will happen. Okay, there won't be any breaking. But in my design, So I am limiting the strength. I'm taking the strength of the material only up to this point. I'm not taking this strength of my material. So now tell me, will it be in a more safer side or will be in a less safer side? So I can put some numbers. Let us say ultimate strength of steel is 400 MPa, okay, and yield strength is 250 megapascal. So while designing the structures, I am underestimating my strength. I am taking only 250 instead of 400. I am taking only 250. So suppose I am going for that design. Will it be more safer side or less safer side?
Sir, more safer side.
More safer.
Yeah, okay, good. That is what I am trying to ask you. When I put some numbers, I think it is more easy for you. So actual the stress strain behavior is this one. Okay. And again, let me clarify. Suppose sometimes we are taking the yield strength is a design criteria. It doesn't mean that your material going to fail after yield strength, because it is going to fail after crossing the ultimate point. Ultimate strength, that is the maximum stress it can take. But in my plastic analysis and design, I will consider only this idealized stress strain diagram. And as per the idealized stress strain diagram, what is the maximum stress will be coming, that is yield strength. Okay, yield strength is, you can say, it is much lesser than your ultimate strength. So that means actually we are going in a more safer side, because we are underestimating the strength of the material. So whenever we are underestimating the strength of the material, and suppose if you are designing some structural member, okay, and how will you find how much? Suppose if you are designing an axially loaded member, okay, let us say for example, you are designing an axially loaded member. How will you find the area? How much area required to withstand particular amount of load? That is a load divided by your permissible stress. Okay, and if I am underestimating the strength, the permissible stress will be less. Finally, what will happen? I will be providing more area. So ultimately, I will be providing larger cross section. So that means you are going in a much safer side. So that is the one, I would say, that is the one impact of this assumption in the design. That is the one impact of this assumption in the design. So this we are, even though we are neglecting this strength of the material, we are going in a safer side. So safety is the most important criteria in one design. So it is fine. Safety point of view, that is fine. Okay. And another advantage, I would say, so another, this is the for important, most important point for this assumption. Because of this assumption, we are going in a much safer side. So another implication, maybe you can say that it is not important as this the safety, because safety is my priority. And another one is, suppose if we have a stress strain diagram. Okay, I'm just giving you an idea of, suppose we have a stress strain diagram, and let us say some stress strain diagram, whatever it is. So you can find the area of stress strain diagram, and if you find the area of stress strain diagram, what will get? Area of stress strain diagram. So maybe you will get something like half into stress into strain. So maybe you can take half into stress equal to P by area, and strain is equal to change in length by original length. So maybe you can write this one, half P delta by area into length. So what is this? Half P delta, that is the, you can say, external work done, or you can say that is a strain energy. Okay, half P delta, that is the strain energy for a gradually applied load. Strain energy by what is this? Volume. Area into length, that is a volume. That means if you take the area of your stress strain diagram, what you will get? You will get strain energy per unit volume, or you can say you are getting the strain energy density. Because the strain energy concept is very very useful in your structural analysis, because there are a lot of methods which are based on the energy principles, something like in your basic course we have the Castigliano's theorem. So all those methods are based on the strain energy. So if we know the strain energy, you can make use of that to solve something, maybe displacement, deflection, you can solve that. So suppose if we have a graph like this, to find out the strain energy, it is complicated. You have to go for some numerical method, or you have to go for some integration. But instead of this, if I have a simplified, idealized stress strain diagram, it is just a, you can say this is my stress strain diagram. and hardly I have two straight lines. Okay, so this one I can say this test diagram also you can say it is a bilinear curve. Bilinear curve. Okay, bilinear curve. It is actually a complete curve, you can say. And to find out the area under this test diagram, it is bit complicated. But instead of that, I am following the idealized test diagram, which is a bilinear curve. So to find out the area under this, it is very very easy. You can easily find this area of triangle and area of this rectangle. You will get total strain energy. So that can be used to solve your maybe you can that can be used to solve something. Okay, so that is another advantage I can say you are getting the while solving it or computational effort maybe you have it will be less. Okay, but it is not important because I can solve it by other methods. That is not an issue. But thing is this one. This is the important point. My safety is a priority because we are underestimating the strength of the material. Actually, the steel can take the strength up to ultimate. I could have considered that, but as per the assumption in the plastic analysis and design, I am following the idealized stress strain curve. In the idealized stress strain curve, we can see that what is the maximum stress in the material, that is the yield strength. This is the maximum stress level. Okay, only up to this point. And also we are neglecting the small parts. And also again, if you see closely, I am neglecting this part. Maybe you can see here itself. And also in the idealized stress strain curve, two aspects we are neglecting. The one is we are ignoring the strain hardening, because the strain hard what is the meaning of strain hardening? The material will again start resisting the load due to the rearrangement of the crystalline structure. So there is some resistance because of the strain hardening. I am neglecting this part, and also I am neglecting this part. So which also this part also we are neglecting. Okay, this small you can say that is also we are just making a level surface, something like that. So it is also we are just ignoring some strength of your material. So that is why we are underestimating underestimating the strength. Underestimating the strength. Underestimating the strength. Okay, so basically if you follow any design method, maybe limit state or working stress method, so there are two aspects. One is the strength and one is the load. So what is the basic concept of design? So what you will do, we will underestimate the strength and we will overestimate the load. Okay, I repeat. So we will overestimate the load and we will underestimate the strength, so that you will get more safer design. That is what we are doing here also. We are just underestimating the strength. Okay, so if you underestimating the strength, what will happen? The net effect will be I will be providing more area, and we are overestimating the load also, some design philosophies. So that is also will give you a more safer design. Okay, only that is the point here. That is all about the first assumption. So we are taking the idealized test and curve for the plastic analysis. So how it is going to affect in the design, that is what I was explaining. So it is finally we will be in a safer side, and computational effort to solve it also, everything will be much simpler than dealing with this curve. Okay, it is much simpler, and remaining assumptions are same. So whatever assumption we used to have in the plastic elastic analysis, all the assumptions are valid. Remaining assumptions, only the first point is the what is the stress strain diagram we are following in the elastic analysis? What will be the stress strain diagram? So this is the idealized stress strain curve for the plastic analysis. Okay, this one. Okay, this one, maybe this one. So in the elastic analysis, we are just in the elastic region only. In the elastic analysis, so what we are taking is what is the stress strain diagram we are following? Stress strain curve. So I can say something like this. We have stress and we have strain. So only the linear part. That's it. We are not going beyond that. Only the linear. Again, it may be we are just limiting the yield strength. So we are going only. We will be having only the this linear part. We will not have this part in the elastic analysis. That is the difference between the elastic and plastic analysis. So we will see. We will discuss this thing in much more detail. So And second assumption in the plastic analysis, that is the same assumption generally we used to have in elastic analysis also. The plane section before bending remains remains plane, okay, and normal to the nodal axis during bending. That is the second assumption. Generally we used to say a plane section remains plane before and after bending. So that is what I have written. Okay, plane section before bending remains plane and normal to the nodal axis during bending. Okay, that means suppose if we have a beam, let us say we have a beam, it is a elevation, maybe you can say it is a elevation, and once during bending it is going to bend. Let us take some sagging moment. Let us take some sagging moment. Let me try to draw that. Okay, so this is a point in the nodal axis. So let us apply some sagging moment. Okay, so it is going to bend. It will bend maybe like this. So it will bend something like this. Okay, this is the okay. So this is before bending. This is the your beam before bending. This one already we have discussed, but let me clarify it again. Before bending, that is your beam. Okay, and after bending, this is my beam after bending. After bending, this is my beam. Okay, and if you take this point, there is, so what is happening after bending? This point has moved to this point. This point has moved to this point, something like that. Okay, this point is moving away toward this direction because this part will be under compression and this part will be under tension. At this point, maybe that point will be in the nodal axis. At this point, there is no movement at this point. So I would say no movement at this point. No movement at this point. So yeah. And as per this assumption, plane section before bending remains plane. Remains plane. Okay. And that means, what is the meaning of that? Remains plane means this surface, let us say this surface after bending, this will be, and this, okay, both are same. It remains straight. It remains straight. So again, we are trying to discuss what is the implication of this assumption. This assumption implies what? Okay, what is the effect of this assumption in the analysis? So as per this assumption, the plane section before bending remains plane. That means this will be remain straight. Okay, and normal to the nodal axis during bending. That means this will be my nodal axis. Okay, let us take this is my maybe neutral layer, you can say, or neutral axis, you can call both, and this will be remains and normal to the remains plane, that means remains straight and normal to the neutral axis. That means this angle will be 90 degree. This angle is going to have 90 degree. So that is what this assumption is saying. So what is the meaning of that? Assumption 2. Assumption 2. So I just explained what is this assumption. Now you tell me assumption 2 implies what? So many times interviews also this used to ask. So plane section remains plane. What do you mean by that assumption? This assumption implies what? So what is the implication of the assumption? Can anybody give me some idea?
So it means the plane is linear.
Yes. Yeah.
Towards the cross section.
Yeah. So anybody want to add something? That is correct. The strain is going to linear. So maybe you can say one more point. Okay. So this you can see that this point is moving here, or there are some movement or displacement, something like that. This is going like this. Here it is going like this. So that means the strain diagram. Initially, the displacements are going to be linear. Okay, this is just a linear variation only. This point is can say it is because it is straight. This will be linear. So this assumption 2 implies your strain will be strain variation. Okay, the strain variation is linear. Strain variation is linear across the depth or along the depth. What to okay maybe. Suppose if you have a rectangular beam. Suppose if you have a rectangular beam cross section, your bending strain diagram will be just linear. Okay, bending strain, that is basically this is the bending strain. It is nothing but a normal strain only. Okay, it is nothing but a normal strain only, because when you come to the strain there are two aspects. One is called longitudinal strain, another one is the shear strain. So this due to bending there will be here we have compressive force, here we have tensile force, which is acting normal to the cross section. That is a normal stress and normal strain only. Okay, whatever the stress we are finding in the bending, stress equal to m by z. This is nothing but your normal stress only. Normal beam, it is acting perpendicular to the cross section of your beam. Okay, so the first implication is it implies your strain variation will be bending strain variation will be linear across the depth. And another one is you can see second part, normal to the neutral axis during bending. Okay, it remains plane section before bending. This section remains plane and normal. That be initially they were cross section making an angle of 90 degree with neutral axis. There is no deformation, so that angle 90 degree. So after deformation also this angle is keeping same 90 degree. That means there is no change in angle. So no change in angle, right? No, no, there is no change in angle actually. So that means we are taking the shear, we are there is no shear strain. Okay, the shear strain actually we are taking as 0, or else I can write that we are neglecting effect of so we are neglecting the effect of shear stress. So in the reality, let me clarify. So in the reality, there may be some changes. Uh, so this cross section may not be remain perfectly straight. There may be some, you can say, distortion or change in shape. The change in shape is always associated with your shear stress. So in the real case, a beam can have some shear stress, right? So because whenever you have the shear stress, that is nothing but a change in angle. That is a shear strain, no? So there will be some change in shape. Okay, the change in shape is always done by shear stress. That means in this analysis, we are considering only flexural stress, and we are not taking any shear stress. Okay, that is what this assumption. That is the effect of this assumption. That is the effect of this assumption. Okay, there is no we are taking only the effect of flexural stress, and we are neglecting the effect of shear stress, even though the shear stress will be present in the real beam. And we are assuming we are taking the strain variation. The bending strain variation is linear. Okay, but in the real case the strain diagram or may not be like this. There may be some changes. Maybe it may be something like that, because in the reality there will be effect of shear stress. So the effect of shear stress that will alter your strain variation. The strain also may not, because if you are taking the shear, this may not be straight. It will be there may be some distortion in this plane. So once you have the distortion, your strain will become something non-linear. Okay, so this effect we are not considering, both elastic as well as plastic analysis. And the remaining assumption is the same, there is no change at all. We can say your the stress strain relation is same in both tension as well as in compression. Okay, something like that. So in the tension region, I have idealized stress strain diagram. It is a bilinear curve. So in the compression side also we will take the same. This assumption already there in our elastic analysis also. We used to take like this only. So we have something like this. The same assumption. Okay. Whatever the stress diagram, the stress strain relation we are following in the tension, the same thing we are taking for the compression also. Okay. So I think that is clear. And next is, let us see the stress strain diagram for different cases. It used to ask in many exams. Suppose the first case is if the material is if the material is ideally plastic. If the material is ideally plastic, then what will be the stress strain diagram? So this type of question many times is asked in you can see in engineering service or gate exam. Sometimes the question used to ask. So the different stress strain diagram will be given, which is for ideally plastic, which is for elastoplastic, which is for elastic, something like that. Okay. If the material is ideally plastic, that means it is just like a, you can say it is like a fluid only, like just like fluid. So your stress strain diagram will be like this. So there is continuous strain. So there is no increase of stress, just it is having lot of only strain is there. There is no change in the stress. Without any change in the stress, we have strain. That is the meaning of ideally plastic. Okay. And second, and if the material is elastoplastic, if the material is elastoplastic. So what will be the this will be asked in the objective exam. Okay, their option will be given. So now I am not discussing in the form of questions, but this can be in the form of MCQ. So this is the stress strain diagram for elastoplastic. That means it will have a elastic range and it will have a plastic range also. And third is elastic. So already we have discussed elastic. What will be the stress strain diagram? So this is just like this. Okay, so this will be put in the form of MCQ or A, B, C, D. 4 option can be given. Okay. Okay, that it is also important. So many times question will be asked. Okay. Okay. So now we will discuss the theory of plastic analysis. The theory of plastic analysis means, so what I want to discuss is how the material changes from elastic to plastic. How the material is going to change from elastic to plastic. Okay. How the material changes from elastic to plastic. So I can take, let us take a simply supported beam. For example, take a simply supported beam. Okay, and let us take some loading, uniformly distributed load. So we are taking a uniformly distributed load, W maybe kilonewton per meter. Okay, and let us say the span is L. The span is L. So we'll have bending moment diagram will be something like this. So we have a parabolic moment diagram, and we'll have maximum moment WL square by 8 at the midspan. Okay, so this is my maximum moment at the midspan WL square by 8. Okay, so let us take the cross section, a circular, rectangular cross section like this. So this is my beam. Okay, let us say width is B and total depth is, let us say total depth is D. It is a neutral axis. So if you have a neutral axis, it will be just centroid, just at the midpoint for a symmetric section. Okay, let us say this is a section I am looking at, this midspan. Okay, this is the midspan. So this section, cross section I have drawn at the midspan. Okay, midspan means at this point. Okay, this wherever we have the maximum moment. So I'm just looking at this section. So this is the cross section, just B and D. So it is a prismatic beam where all the along the length there is no change in the cross section shape. B and D are constant. Okay, so as per our assumption, we have a strain. So we have the strain will be just, we have a linear strain diagram. So as per assumption number 2, so my bending strain, that is just linear. This may be compressive strain and this may be tensile strain. Okay, so as per assumption, the strain will be linear. Strain is linear within elastic zone. Okay, so what is the bending stress? Bending stress, how will you find bending stress? That is your, so we have already discussed in strength of material. Bending stress is given by, we can say M by I, moment of inertia about neutral axis, into Y, the distance from the neutral axis to the extreme fiber, or which fiber you are looking for the stress value, M by I into Y. This one I can write M by ZD, okay, where ZD is your I by Y max. Maybe you can call this is called elastic section modulus. Okay, elastic section modulus. This is the equation for a bending stress we have already studied. Okay, I can find out the bending stress, that is M by elastic section modulus. This is known as flexure formula. It is nothing but your, so this is nothing but your elastic flexure formula. Okay, this formula is based on elastic analysis. That means while all this analysis, all these equations are applicable only for this type of stress strain diagram. Okay, we are taking only up to this point. Okay, we are not going beyond that. Okay, so this is the elastic flexure formula. This is what we are basically we are doing in the elastic analysis. Okay, this is what we are doing in the elastic analysis. So now we will see how the cross section, or how this material changes from elastic to plastic. So what you will do is, we will take a, let us take a, we have some beam, let us say whatever is the beam cross section, it doesn't matter. Okay, and we have some loading, and so let us say how that when if we keep on increasing the load, what will happen? Initially it will be the linear elastic region. Uh, once it exceed the yield stress value, what will happen? It is going to enter into the plastic. Okay, so here we have a corresponding stress diagram also. Okay, corresponding stress diagram. So if you take the corresponding stress diagram, because the strain is linear and we are doing the linear elastic analysis, that means stress is proportional to strain, and if strain is linear, stress also will be a linear variation. It is just your stress value. Just multiply, take the strain value, multiply with modulus, Young's modulus. You will get the tensile stress, and here you will get compressive stress. Okay, you get compressive stress here, and you will get tensile stress here. So this is in the elastic analysis. Suppose if you want to find maximum moment of resistance in the elastic analysis, what you will do is, you will take this value as a limiting value, that is a yield strength. Okay, that is a limiting condition for the elastic analysis is the maximum stress. That is a maximum stress means extreme fiber stress. whenever the extreme fiber stress, this value, whenever the extreme fiber stress reaching the yield strength, that is the my limiting condition. So I will not allow the stress in my structural member to exceed that condition. So if I exceed, that is a failure condition as per my assumption. Okay, that is what we are doing in the elastic analysis. The elastic analysis, only there will be only one fiber, that is the extreme fiber, will have maximum yield strength. All the remaining fibers, if you see, the stress will be much lesser than yield strength. Okay, much lesser than yield strength. So this is a limiting condition for the elastic analysis. So now we will see how it is changing, how the stress block is going to change when your material is moving from elastic to plastic. Okay, so let us take an arbitrary cross section. Whatever is the cross section shape, it doesn't matter. Okay, so for the time being, you just take this line is not there. I could not make animation more. So for the time being, you assume this line is not there in this diagram. Okay, so we will see different stage. Suppose we have a so we are looking at, let us say we are looking at the same problem. We have a simply supported beam. So we have a simply supported beam, and we have some loading UDL, and we are looking at the midsection, and this is the cross section of my beam, some arbitrary shape. So I am looking at the midspan. Okay, I am looking at the midspan. So let us say midspan here. So at this section, I will have a stress block that will be linear like this. Okay, this one we have a linear stress strain, the stress variation or the stress block, we can say. So now initially, so I have the loading is W. So what I'm doing is I am just so I want to see the what is the changes will happen in the stress block if it is moving from elastic to plastic. So that is what we are trying to discuss. Okay, how material changes from elastic to plastic, right? So what I'm doing is I am just keep on increasing my load. So I'm just going to keep on increasing my intensity of UDL small w. So I'm just keep on increasing this intensity of load W. So initially the loading is less. So this let us say this is the neutral axis. So this is the centroid of the cross section. Then the centroid will be same as your neutral axis in the elastic analysis, right? The centroid is same as neutral axis in the elastic analysis. So this is my neutral axis, and this line is not there for the time being. Okay, and this is my neutral axis. Initially your the stress levels are, let us say, less than yield strength, because my loading is very less. So this will be the variation. At the neutral axis we have zero stress, and the stress is varying linearly, and this is the one extreme fiber, this is another extreme fiber. Okay, so now I am just increasing the load. I am just increasing the load, then what will happen? The stress will correspondingly increase. So after that, so in the second stage, what will happen? This stress will is reaching the yield strength. Okay, so let us take your section is something like that. Let us say your section may be something like this. uh, Suppose if you say the section is, this is my cross section, let us assume. Okay, this the my neutral axis will be closer to this. Okay, and now you tell me only just so that you can understand this stress block better. This is my the stress diagram in the elastic range. Okay, let's so what point you have to note down here is, so this length will be lesser and this length will be higher, right? That will be higher. So now you tell me, suppose if I keep on, now the stress levels are less, sigma is less than yield strength, because my loading is very less. Both these extreme stresses are lesser than the yield strength. So now I keep on increasing increasing the load. So which fiber will reach yield strength first? This fiber or this fiber? Which one will reach yield strength first? Which one will reach yield strength first? This is, let us say, y2 and this is y1. So obviously y2 will be more than y1 in this case. Which will be reaching the top fiber or bottom fiber?
the top fiber.
Yeah, the top fiber will be reaching the yield distance first, because this is y is more, so distance is more, so this stress will be higher always. And if you have a symmetric section, if you have a symmetric section like a rectangular section, okay, actually I could have considered symmetric section so that that discussion would be much simpler, but still it is fine. Because in this case I have an arbitrary shape. So if you have a symmetric cross section, what is the point? Uh, we'll have a extreme compressive stress and we have extreme tensile stress. Both will be same. So both will be reaching yield point at the same time simultaneously. Okay, but as per this drawing, my section is not symmetric. So here assumption is this distance is more. Okay, that even though the drawing is just looks reverse. So I am keep on increasing my load intensity. What will happen is at some point of time, my the top fiber stress is reaching the yield stress, because this distance is more. Okay, this distance is more. So this is, and let us say it is y2 and this is y1. Okay, so this drawing is not to the scale, so y2 is more than y1. Okay. Also, we have taken arbitrary cross section because the cross section, okay, that will be better, so that I can explain much more things than a symmetric section here. Okay, so I'm keep on increasing the load. In the stage one, both are having less than yield strength. It is in the linear range. The next stage is stage two. That is the critical stage in your elastic analysis. Okay, let us understand that is a critical stage in elastic analysis. Any one extreme fibers is has reached the yield strength. That is my limiting condition. So in this case, let us say the top fiber has reached yield strength, but bottom is less than yield strength. So if you are doing elastic analysis, this is my ultimate stage. I cannot allow any more load beyond this stage in the elastic analysis. But we are doing the plastic analysis, so we are following a different stress strain diagram. So we are following a different stress strain diagram, this one. So what is the next stage is I am increasing the load further. I am increasing the load further. So then what will happen is, suppose let us say this is a beam made of let us say for example mild steel. So these fibers has reached yield strength. But what about the other fibers? Inside fibers in the stage 2, they are having something lesser than yield strength. But you can see that all the fibers are made of mild steel, same material, all are having equal strength. That means all the fibers can take load up to yield strength. There is no failure. So that is what happen. If you increase the load beyond, if you increase the load further, what will happen is this has reached yield strength. It will not increase further. Okay, it will not increase further. But if you increase the load beyond this point, what will happen is the inside fibers will start getting yielded. Okay, that is what you can see here. Inside fibers are getting yielded, and meanwhile this one also reached the yield point. Okay, and if you increase the load further, it will go to stage 4. What will happen is, and some more fibers inside is getting yield. Okay, and here also it is the yielding as spreading towards inside. Here also it started. Finally, in the final stage, it will reach a stage will come something like this. The complete beam cross section has reached the yield strength. Complete beam cross section has reached the yield strength, and this part of your beam completely having compressive stress, and this part will be completely having the tensile stress. But both are having yield strength. Let us say mild steel, both are having the 250. Now let me ask you one question. Uh, um, so why this is going more than why it is increasing beyond yield strength? Why it is going up to yield strength only? Why these XT fibers are not increasing beyond yield strength? Can anybody give me some answer? Can say whatever you're thinking. So why the XT fiber after this stage, if I increase the load, XT fibers are yield strength. It is not going beyond that, but inside fiber just reaching the yield strength. Why it is like that?
So because our assumption is
Yeah,
we are because we are considering up to yield point.
yeah, yeah, yes.
Different plastic.
Yeah, so yeah, very good. That is the exact answer. That is why we have discussed, we have spent a lot of time in the assumptions. So this is my actual stress strain diagram. It can take actually it can take after yield strength also. It can go up to ultimate. Then only the failure will happen. But my in my analysis, in the plastic analysis and design, we are not taking the real stress strain diagram. We are taking the idealized stress strain diagram. In the idealized stress strain diagram, we are limiting the material should not cross yield point. The any fiber anywhere, extreme fiber or anywhere in the cross section, it can take maximum stress is yield strength. That is the whole concept of plastic analysis. Okay, that is why. So we cannot say that we cannot take this stress is beyond. Okay, that is a. It does not mean that it will fail. Actually, it is not going to fail. Only thing is I am not taking that strength in my analysis. That is why I am drawing my stress diagram like this. Okay, final stage is like this. The complete section will be, this is called fully plastic. This cross section everywhere, each and every fiber, the in entire depth of your beam cross section have reached the yield strength. This state we can say that fully plastic. And this section we can say that it is partially elastic and partially plastic. This one also. Okay. This is known as partially elastic and partially plastic. Let us take this section. It looks something like this. Let me, because the all only you have to understand these parts only, because later on it is very easy. Once you understand the entire concept of plastic analysis, it is much simpler than elastic analysis. So if you have a state of, suppose if you are in the stage 3, if you are in this stage, let us say stage 4. So I have a stress block something like this. That means this part of your beam, this is my stress. Okay, let us say this is my cross section. Let us take a beam of maybe rectangular beam, some cross section, whatever it is, it is my beam. Okay, it is my beam. So suppose if you are in this stage 4, if you are in this stage 4, the stress block is something like this. That means oh sorry, okay, let me save anyway, something happened. Okay, just a minute, let me save it. Yes, so this part is plastic, because this section complete, these fibers in the beam you can project into the beam. This part of your beam has reached all the fibers has reached yield point, and same thing here also. This part of the beam is all the fibers in this part has reached the yield point. This is the plastic, but this section of your beam, that is still in the elastic, because the stress in this level are much lesser than your yield point. Okay, so this part will be, this green color is just plastic. So I can say this is this section of your elastic. Okay, this section of your beam is that elastic, and the red color, so that indicating the section is plastic. Okay, that is the condition of your beam cross section. This part partially elastic as well as partially plastic. This is completely elastic. It is also completely elastic. Here also again partially plastic and partially elastic. This is also same, and this is fully plastic. Okay, that is fully plastic. So this one you can say this is nothing but your stress diagram only. You can see the stress. That is what we are drawing here. My idealized stress strain diagram is that one only, linear, elastic and plastic. The same thing indicating here. It is nothing but this one only, partially elastic and partially plastic. Okay, so the limiting condition will be this one. In the plastic analysis, my limiting condition is this one. So once the cross section reaches this stage, then I will say that is a limiting condition. So after that, there is a collapse. And actually again you have to understand, actually your structure is not going to collapse after this stage, but in my analysis or in my design I am not allowing anywhere any point in the structural member going to cross this condition. but I have to keep factor safety etc accordingly. Okay, so the case one is elastic section. Maybe I will write here. Stage one is elastic. Stage one is elastic, and stage 2 also elastic, and stage 3 and stage 4 maybe okay, let us say stage 1 is elastic, all the stresses are just below the yield point. Okay, and stage 2 is, I can say, that is a yield condition, because this one fiber has reached the yield point. Stage 2 is the yield, and that is a limiting condition. So limiting condition in elastic analysis. So elastic analysis, any one fiber if reaches the yield point, then that is a limiting condition. So beyond that, it is a failure. Okay, and stage 3 and as well as stage 4, stage 3 and stage 4, both together, you can say that is elastoplastic section. Elastoplastic section, and stage 5, that is plastic section, fully plastic. Okay, this is, so like this where the stress block is changing from a linear elastic to yield to elastoplastic to plastic, elastic to yield, then partially elastic, partially plastic, then fully plastic. So this is the limiting condition for plastic analysis. The limiting condition, so there is no space to write, limiting condition for plastic analysis. Okay, so this formula, whatever formula we are discussing, stress equal to m by z, that is, this is valid up to stage 2. Okay, the stress equal to m by z, that is valid up to stage 2. So stress equal to m by z, that is valid only up to stage 2. So okay, that is about this. Next we have to discuss the plastic moment of resistance.